So there's basically 3 levels of taxation. You're kind of talking a little bit about what happens at death.
Yeah.
And we've spent the first part of the show talking about what happens while you're alive. But it's really, really important to understand that your tax plan needs to be something that works for your entire life and will continue to work even after you're gone. What we see happen so many times, and this is one of the things I really hate, people, and I get passionate when we start talking about this, because we see farms destroyed, we see family businesses basically burnt to the ground, we see homes lost, we see wealth just decimated by these level of taxes that occur when you die. And I'm talking about 3 things. There's a state tax from the federal level, a state tax from the state level, and those are different things. And then there's income tax when you pass away as well. And so, one of the things that we do is we sit down and we help people understand how their specific estate, how their specific situation is impacted or affected by these 3 different levels of taxation. And then we help them understand how to adequately plan to minimize or eliminate that. I was sitting down this morning at my gym. And by the way, I'm extremely sore, so if I'm moving around in my chair a lot here, it's because the guys who coach me at my gym worked my tail off this week.
Yeah, they had mentioned the outfit that you wore. There was something about zebra skin workout pants.
I don't know. I don't have the slightest idea what you're talking about. Okay, they were Bears themed workout pants.
Oh, were they?
Okay, so beyond my workout attire, which by the way I think is getting a little too personal for the radio, I was talking with a fellow in the lobby today, and he and I have become friends over the years, and he and his family farm a substantial amount of land here in McLean County, actually throughout central Illinois. And, it's one of these big farm operations. There's all kinds of cousins working together and things like that. And one of the things we were talking about was he was just mentioning how he hopes that his grandparents have adequate planning in place so that when they pass away, the family farm won't have to get pieced off and sold off to pay state taxes. And we were just talking about this, and I was chatting with him a little bit about what we do, and this is one of the things we're starting to see a lot. It used to be somebody with a 500-acre farm, estate taxes weren't a big issue for them. Well, now guess what? The government is going to come after that person, come after that family, and come after that farm when they pass away because estate taxes have become a big deal. The entire picture we're painting here, really, is simply a more invasive government. 20 years ago, people didn't have to take near the steps they have to take now in order to avoid some of these taxes because they weren't as egregious. Now, because the government's becoming more invasive, you are required to become more involved in your personal planning and in your tax planning because there are threats out there that many of you don't even know about. You're too busy in your own lives. You can't possibly become an expert on all this. And what we do day in, day out is come beside people, help them identify the threats that they don't realize are happening to them. And by the way, they're different for almost everybody. This is not a cookie-cutter approach. Almost everybody has different threats depending on their life situation. And then we sit down and we help people adequately plan going forward. We mathematically verify that our decisions are the correct course of action, and then we maintain the ability to be agile going forward to take advantage of any changes in market conditions or IRS tax laws. It's very, very important to grab a hold of this stuff, take hold of it, and make sure that you're the one controlling it rather than just going along with the government's plan. And it's a matter of hundreds of thousands of dollars in most cases, millions in some.
Yeah. So there's a big difference between tax preparation and tax planning. And if you're getting your taxes done and you're before you mail them in, I would just make a complimentary offer to you. Bring them into our office, and we'll sit down and we'll have an analysis done, and we can actually prepare an alternative tax return for you that shows what would happen if you made some changes and what it would do to your taxes before April 15th, in many cases. So there's a big difference between tax preparation and tax planning. Our office is capable of doing tax preparation for you. It's not something that we focus on, but we can do it. But there's a big difference between going to H&R Block, which is not a bad organization by any means. They prepare taxes pretty good. But there's a difference between doing that and doing tax planning. Tax planning is making sure that we don't we keep the IRS as far back in the line as possible, and you get to keep more of your money in your pocket.
You know what? You're right. H&R Block does prepare taxes pretty good, but we prepare them pretty well, don't we? Okay, so you know, I want to give another example to folks of just some of the tax planning that we do in our office. And we actually had a woman in this week, and we were sitting down and we were just simply talking about the planning she's done, and she's getting ready. A lot of you folks who are listening may be getting to that magic point of time where you're turning 70 and a half and you have to take a required minimum distribution off your 401k or IRA or other qualified money.
And let me interrupt you here, Ty.
Sure.
If you're 60, 62, 65 and you're in that mode where you're thinking about retiring, or you are retired and you don't know what an RMD or required minimum distribution is, you better get on the phone right now before this show's over. Call 800-999-2371, 800-999-2371. At first glance, it seems like a relatively simple thing, but the overall impact on what it can have on the planning that you do. And you know, one of the things that we do is we use tax shelters a lot too. And a lot of people go, you know, well, I'm not rich enough to have a tax shelter.
Even more
You
important.
don't have to be rich.
Even more important.
To have a tax shelter.
Yep.
Okay? Yeah, it's even more important. We use these tax shelters to reduce the participation of your silent partner's participation in your financial planning, because he's always going to be there.
Yeah, so this woman's a great example of that, of how an RMD affects people. And you're right when you say it, Bernie. There's so many people who are in their 50s and 60s who are shoveling money into a 401k or an IRA, and without any real thought about how that impacts their taxes.
Long term, yeah.
And you know, if you don't understand how that works, people really should call us, because one of the things we do is not just analyze your taxes for this year, but we also look 20 years out and we go, what's this going to look like in 20 years?
Yeah, what's the effect of inflation going to be 20 years from now?
And you know, 20 years goes by really quick. This summer,
tell me about it,
This
man.
summer, I'm turning 30 and I'm having my second child. So you know, now I've got to grow up, right? And I don't know.
I still can't get over the fact that you can make your own bed.
I don't make my own bed. Now that I've moved out of the house, I just don't have to worry about it anymore. So
we'll have inspections on Saturdays if you're going to keep that up.
Yeah, I'm sure my wife will be thrilled about that. So you know, that, and the 20 years has gone by since I was a child myself, and now all of a sudden I have two of them living under my roof, and I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. So planning for 20 years from now is really, really important. You know, and
well, let's get back to talking about these RMDs. I know you're talking about, but like we were saying, if you're in the pre-retirement mode or just entering retirement, and you don't know what a required minimum distribution is, or the potential long-term effect that it can have on your wealth, and the effect that it will have on the wealth of your heirs, then you need to give us a call. Talk a little bit more about that, Ty.
Yeah, our phone number is 800-999-2371, 800-999-2371. So, I'm going to give an example briefly. We only have a couple minutes before I have to go to break, but I think this example will help. You know, we had a woman in this AM, and she's about ready to take her first RMD. She's 69. She will be shortly. She'll be taking her first RMD here in a couple years. And she's right on the cusp of the next tax bracket. She's within $4,000 of the next tax bracket. Her RMD next year will be somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000. Just depends on how much interest she earns. Okay, so it'll be somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000. If she withdraws that RMD, which she is mandated to by the government, it actually bumps her up into the next tax bracket. She gets a big tax increase because she saved money into a government-sponsored retirement program that the government participates in. And now they are mandating her to take the money out. Even though she doesn't need it or want it, she has to take it out, and she's going to pay higher taxes the rest of her life because she has to take this income out. Not only that, she has some other types of income, you know, things like capital gains and dividend income that are affecting her negatively as well. And what we're able to do is we're able to sit down with her, and through effectively analyzing her tax return, we're going to be able to keep her in the lower tax bracket.
Well, you know, that just brings us back to one concept that we haven't talked much about. We usually bring this up at the beginning of the show. But this system that we have that has proven itself through the course of time has the power to change people's lives.
Absolutely.
And not just your life, but the lives of your heirs. Sometimes as far as 2 or 3 generations down the road will be impacted positively because of your participation in the safe and secure money system. We don't have any competition when it comes to making sure people's money is safe.
And that multi-generational planning, boy, that's a whole nother aspect. And I think we'll talk about that a lot more when we get into the second half of the show, about what happens when you die. We've talked this first half a lot about how to avoid and lower taxes and how the safe and secure money system helps eliminate some of the taxation that you experience while you're alive. I think in the second half of the show we should talk about the very egregious tax penalties you get for being a saver while you're alive when you pass away. So this woman, she's going to be bumped up in the next tax bracket. We're going to keep her in the lower tax bracket, saving her thousands of dollars a year in additional taxes she otherwise would have had to pay. And you know what? Her tax preparer hasn't said a thing to her about this.
No.
Her old financial advisor never said a thing to her about this. If she lives a good long life, we're going to put $50,000 to $100,000 of money back in her and her family's pocket that would just go out to the government. That wouldn't be their wealth anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be able to help her do this, and we're going to be able to make sure she keeps herself in the most tax advantageous position she can be in for the rest of her life. So, that being said, if you want to learn more about how to positively affect your tax situation, I guarantee you we can help you with that. 800-999-2371 is our phone number. 800-999-2371. Our website's wgadvisor.com. That's whiskey golf advisor.com.